It's December. We got a nice guest. We got lessons. We got interesting stories. We've got everything. It's dark outside, but boy, do we have an episode for you to enjoy. Oh boy. Welcome to another episode of the Icarus Idea. So great to have you listening in again for another episode with a new guest. Today's guest is very special. Bram, could you just introduce the guest that we're talking to today?
You're giving me the honors?
Yes, could you do that?
Wow.
Please?
All right. Well, hi everyone. This month is the Social Design Month. And for this Social Design episode, we reached out to a guest that is the CEO and founder of Hable, a company that is improving smartphone experience for blind and visually impaired. With this company, he has already won several awards, which we definitely go into. But before that, he started out studying industrial design, his bachelor's in India, and his master at the University of Eindhoven. The product, the Hable One, will be released around now. So welcome, Ayushman Talwar.
Thanks guys. Thanks for having me over. I listened to your previous podcast and I was quite excited to be here among other designers, I feel, from another university. Good to speak about the project with you guys.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. So I guess we can dive right into it. Can we just start at the beginning of Hable?
Yeah, of course. I have a very personal story. I come from India, New Delhi, and growing up, I've lived with my granddad who was visually impaired. So he was not born blind. He first had night blindness when he married my grandmom. And then later on in his adult years, he slowly lost his sight. So by the time I was born, I've only seen him completely blind all my life. But he's not with us anymore. Like, he passed away last year, summer. Hable was born back in 2017. So the idea in some ways was inspired by him or by me looking at how he lives his life. So there was an opportunity by MIT Media Labs, and they had an India initiative, and I got to work with a lot more blind people. Of course, had a personal story behind it, why I wanted to work with them. But back in 2017, there was a huge challenge for blind and visually impaired to use the technology and smartphones. They expressed their concerns of not having enough devices or the correct ways to input the text or have the freedom to use technology the way that they wanted to do it. I was still doing my engineering and completing that. So that was in Bangalore, which is the Silicon Valley of India. So I started doing these projects outside my time in the evenings to work on prototypes and test it out with blind people to see how they reacted and which way should we go. But I have to say that in India, the resources were not enough to take the project ahead. There's a very different aspect of what social design is in India because India is a different economy than Netherlands. One thing that I was missing with my engineering was the human aspect. For whom are we building products? Engineering challenges are very much straightforward. You have a design, you have a problem, and you solve it with a technical solution. So I started looking for design institutes, and back in India, you don't really have terms like product design, industrial design thrown around. Rarely people know about it. In fact, my mom, she thought when I said I wanted to study design that I wanted to be an artist and I'm going to be unemployed.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a nice stereotype.
So it was pretty hard to convince her to say, no, it is a real job. There are people who do that, and there are products which are made by industrial designers. So I found a really nice institute in Eindhoven, and I did have an opportunity to go for Delft, but I did not. I found Eindhoven as a better fit for my studies. And fast forward to here, we participated in some competitions, found a team, and here we are.
Okay, well, the first thing, well, there's a lot of things that struck me in that story, and I think that might be interesting. You chose specifically for Eindhoven as opposed to Delft. Mm-hmm. Why was that?
Well, coming here, I think you see a lot more opinions of people between Delft and Eindhoven. But from somebody sitting in India, Delft is more popular as a university than Eindhoven. It has a much bigger brand name outside Netherlands, for sure. So there was definitely a craze to go for Delft. But then I come from an electrical engineering background, and I saw in Eindhoven they do interaction design, which is quite unique to the designer himself. Whereas in Delft, if you look at the portfolios, most of the projects are the similar projects done by different people trying to achieve a different result. Where the designer's choice is limited to a certain extent after the project briefing. In Eindhoven, the briefing is something that a designer finds themselves personally. And I found that very exciting because none of the projects that you see here are similar to each other. And that's why, I picked Eindhoven.
No.
Okay. So it's more personal, you would say?
Yeah, that's...
Just to sum it up in one word.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that makes sense because we've of course talked to several people from the Eindhoven University because there's only 3 places where we can get industrial design students to talk to.
Yeah.
And when I think about it, we got people designing food. Just 2 months ago, we talked to Claudia, who is designing toys, and then here you are designing products that enable blind people to work with smartphones. So there's 3 completely different things. Was there a specific reason that you wanted to go to the Netherlands? Because I think you can study industrial design in, I think, Germany, Scandinavia, stuff like that.
That's true. So again, the process for that started in 2015, so not so time ago, when I actually started finding terms like interaction design, product design, industrial design, terms being thrown around related to design. I didn't really know which one is the best fit, but then the next question to me was the country that I choose is the country that probably I would be staying at after my studies as well. So it was very important for me to know that the country speaks at least English or the second language is English. US was not, I couldn't afford the study, to be honest, in US, and I didn't really felt the need necessarily to go to the US. But then in Netherlands, you also had a lot of designers, and English was a big plus for me to start studying here.
Well, you already told that you were busy with the Hable back in India. Now you're working here in the Dutch business environment. Do you notice a lot of difference?
Yeah. It is quite hard to explain to somebody who's never traveled to India. Even if they've traveled to India as a tourist, it is pretty hard to tell people how confusing it is. The chaos that is there, it's not that straightforward to find a startup and make it a success. Preferences or the priority is on food, water, basic amenities. Industrial design is not looked beyond providing basic amenities. And it has to come at a cost which is also affordable by a lot of people there. In Netherlands, we can, let's say, dare to look a little beyond that and say, okay, how can we improve the quality of life instead? Yeah. So there is a huge difference in terms of the support structure for startups. The paths are quite laid out. There are a lot of people who are willing to help you in that success. Whereas in India, the disability especially, I would say, if I'm talking about it today, and disability especially is looked at from a very stigmatic point of view. And here, I think Hable can be cool. Yeah. It doesn't have to be that disability, accessibility, technology. It can be that cool controller, a universal controller which provides confidence to blind and visually impaired.
Yeah. Yeah, because we didn't talk about it yet, but the Hable One is the product we're talking about today. Can you really explain what it looks like and what it actually does?
Yeah. It's a controller that I don't think any of the audiences have seen before. They can check it out at iamhable.com.
All right, we'll put the link in the show notes.
Yeah. To explain what it is, it's if people have played Xbox and PlayStation, it's a controller. but instead of those controllers, it doesn't have a joystick, and you use all the fingers except the thumb. It's like a Guitar Hero. It's a controller that you use with both of your hands. It basically has 8 keys right now as a minimal viable product. The 6 keys out of the 8 are used for Braille language. Blind people, they use tactile language, and it has 6 dots. Those 6 dots, basically, you can have 6 factorial ways of having combinations. So you can have a punctuation mark, alphabets, numbers, concatenations in short forms with that. And then you have 2 special function keys for space, enter, and delete. So that's the primary function of what the controller is supposed to do. The secondary function is that it's a universal controller. So right now, how we sighted people use our phones is we use the interaction is a screen. The feed forward is, again, the screen, and the feedback is what we see on the screen. So we use our fingers as an instrument to navigate through those menus. Blind people there's an assistive technology called VoiceOver. It's a screen reading device. So it reads out the screen and gives feedback in the form of audio. Whatever interaction that the blind person does, which is swiping, tapping, double tapping, other types of interactions, 2-finger swipings, 3-finger swipings. There are even 5-finger swipings on a small iPhone. Imagine trying to swipe your 5 fingers over your iPhone. It's literally impossible to do that.
Yeah.
Those are the interactions that are built in for screen readers for blind and visually impaired, and our controller can do that without trying to fit your fingers onto the screen. So in a nutshell, it's basically letting you text and controlling the phone using Bluetooth. So it's a wireless connection, so you can leave the phone in your pocket, in your bag. You don't really need to even have the phone in the hand. You can unlock the phone using the controller, using a security code. You can lock it back again. That's what a Hable One is.
Cool.
Now, in the pictures that I saw of it is, I think your previous prototype was a phone case, so it's actually attached to the back of the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Is that still the case, or is it not the purpose anymore? Is it you're supposed to have it on its own, like the little box with the 6 or 8 buttons on it?
Yeah, so it's completely independent from the phone. There is no need to attach it at the back of the phone. And that's also a learning process, I think. Starting from 2017, the design direction has changed several times, and that's because of testing it with the end user. It doesn't make sense as of now to put it at the back of the phone. The overall size of the phone becomes big. It's quite hard to put it in your pocket, especially women's jeans. Yeah, it's not comfortable to grip it anymore.
Okay.
That was the reason. Actually, we shipped the first devices with a Velcro and an attachment at the back, so people can put it at the back of the phones. And we shipped.
High-tech stuff, Velcro.
Hey, if you don't use tape and Velcro, you're not a designer.
Yeah, exactly. We'll quote that.
And when we shipped that, none of the 15 people used it the way that we intended it to be used. They all scratched it out of the Velcro, and they used it as a standalone device.
Oh, yeah.
We were like, okay, if that's what people want, we're going to go in that direction. Then we don't really have to make a choice ourselves.
No,
the customers make a choice for us.
Yeah, that makes sense. It proves once again the value of user testing and listening to who's actually going to use it.
You can have an image in your head about how it's going to be tested, but in the end, they always find another way.
Yeah.
Is it hard also to test with a target audience that you're not really yourself? I mean, you're not blind or visually impaired. So is it difficult in testing an object that you know you're going to use yourself?
It's interesting that you say that, because I have learned the process over time. I wouldn't say in the design school I was really good at testing or finding participants to test my prototypes with. And I've learned over time while working with Hable that how extremely important that is. So we are in a difficult market. And when I say difficult market, it is because while user testing, I really do have to put in a lot of effort to find the right people to test it out with. So now what we have done is we've separated the tasks with me and my co-founder, Freek. And he is Dutch, and he's also an extrovert. He really likes talking to people. So we have separated 2 departments. We have a customer development team, which is composed of 4 people whose job is just to talk to people. Just to have interviews, just to talk to people, figure out what their worldview is. And we did all of that, and because so COVID also taught us some things.
What did COVID teach you?
In March this year, 2020, we were supposed to do the product launch in a fair, in an exhibition, physical space. And just one day before the actual fair, when we were all ready, everybody was boosted up, we were all enthusiastic about showing what we have made, there was a lockdown. And that did put water on some of our hopes, but then we found a way around, because all the people that we were supposed to meet and show the prototype, we cannot do that anymore.
No.
And that's a shame. Yeah, blind people also had to go through a lot during the lockdown, but what we then found out is that there is still a way in which we can send the devices to them, have video calls with blind people. That was something new, and still test the prototype. And we did that with 60 people, actually. We had 100 prototypes that we made, all 3D printed professionally. Like if you look at the product, it's a professional product, 3D printed. And we made 100 of these. We tested them with 60 people, sent it to their houses in Netherlands and in Belgium, and then we arranged video calls with them to test out before. It was a 2-week process in which we tested before the 2 weeks, how they felt and the onboarding process and their views. And then after 2 weeks, we again did a retest to see if that has changed.
Is there some way that people that are listening to this, they might know someone that's visually impaired? Is there some way that they can reach out to you and maybe try to be a test subject as well?
Yeah. So the story that we want to share with other people or other designers is that it's a continuous learning process for us.
Yeah.
And Netherlands is the place where we're gonna test everything, basically. So the blind and visually living in the Netherlands have an opportunity here to co-create with us, because what their opinions or their views are, we are here to listen to them. And if they say that the product should have these extra features, we are welcoming those thoughts and ideas, because their imagination is the limit to where it could go. So if you know somebody who's blind, visually impaired, you think you don't know how they use technology, or you're curious to know what they do while learning to use smartphones or iPhones, you can reach out to us at support@iamhable.com.
Nice.
Even if you're a designer who's interested in such a project, I would say.
All right.
We have so many projects that we don't disclose on the website, but we have them running, which, of course, are NDA. But we're happy to provide resources to designers to design better. Yeah.
There was actually also... yours.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, one of my questions is if you were already working on other products for the visually impaired or the blind, but now I assume that you can't really talk about it.
Yeah, I can give a small teaser about what it is and who the target audience is, because...
Scoop.
It's a teaser. Let's go.
Because I think the idea is a 5% of the whole thing. So I don't mind sharing ideas. It's actually doing it and executing, which is the hard part.
Yeah.
So,
this sounds familiar. This is what the Lego designer told us as well a few episodes ago. But please go on.
What we found out while talking to a lot of people is there is an 8% total increase in the number of people who are visually impaired each year.
Oh, really?
That is a number. So it's not going down. It's not constant.
No.
It's increasing. And when we looked closely at it, we saw that people who are from the ages of 40 there's so many people who slowly start losing their eyesight. So they were born sighted people like us. They had 40 years of their lives, which they lived as a sighted person, like doing normal tasks, trying to use their eyes for all the feedback and the feed forwards. And then suddenly life took a turn and they slowly started losing their sight. And now over 10 years, they've lost their sight completely. And now is a challenge to be able to still participate in society with the same level, with the same enthusiasm. Mm-hmm. So we see this as a huge challenge. There are so many people who belong to this category, and we want to help them.
Yeah,
we want to provide the learning tools for these people in a much better and easier way. So now the focus of not building an assistive technology, it moves towards you have all these tools which are screen reading devices, but there is a huge emotional burden to learn these over time.
Yeah.
We're using design to build solutions which overcome the emotional burden. And that could be using games, gamification of it, or audio teaching, because audio is a big part of how they use technology. And in that area, we're trying to investigate a lot more projects. So there are 3 projects currently running in Hable, which would eventually could become potential products next year.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good starting point, because just trying to imagine how you would feel if you get the message, okay, in 10 years you might get blind, and then you slowly, gradually lose your eyesight. I think that will be a huge mental hit. Wanting to participate in society would be a problem, apart from how to do it, I think. I think last season we talked to Timo Lejeune, and he is a light designer. So he designed...
I know him. He's also from Eindhoven or not?
True.
Yeah.
Okay, so what he said to us is he had this struggle because as a design student, you want to work on making the world a better place. It's kind of, you get that from the education a bit as well. Like, yeah, we're the people that can make a difference in this world, right? But it's also kind of a pressure. He said, well, you can also contribute to a better world just by doing what you are good at. And I was just wondering, would everyone have to do social design, or what do you think?
Yeah, so as designers, we tend to think quite abstractly. I am also an abstract thinker, but there is the aspect of life which is about the details, or diving deep into the small intricacies of life. So I do feel that, okay, with every small thing that you do, you're contributing to a bigger impact. But for me, I think as a social design, you eventually want to make somebody happy. You don't sell products to people. You don't make products. You're trying to sell a solution to somebody. So at the same time, it's an emotion that you're selling, a feeling that you're selling to people. And that is more important than trying to see the direct impact. So the 2 things to it. There's an outcome, and the outcome for Timo is that he is designing lights which for festivals are people go to the festivals and they enjoy the festivals. And for us, it's making controllers which blind people can use technology with, and that's an outcome of the company. Mm-hmm. And then there is an impact side of design, which is over time, because impact is a long term. Mm-hmm. It's measured over long term. It's not a short term KPI to measure. An impact, unless and until you're UN, you can say that you're making an impact. But other than that, it really takes a lot of effort to see change over time, 5 years down the line, to say, okay, we provided employment to 100,000 blind people, and that's the impact that we created. We helped in educating 100 of the blind people. That's the impact that we're creating. Timo's lights in festivals made Netherlands in the top of the happiness index of the country. Yeah. As designers, I think we have to see what we're designing not as products but as solutions to people's needs.
Okay. So it's not the physical product or thing that you're making, that counts, but it's the, let's say, long-term impact that you're having with it. That might be...
Yeah. But also from the person who's using it, what change does it bring in their lives? So you kind of have to separate yourself as a designer from it.
Well, we did some research into you, and you also mentioned in calls that we had before the recording that you participated in a few contests. Well, the list that I found so far is that you've won the ASML Makers Award, the Anton and Gerard Award, the Philips Innovation Rough Diamond Award, and the European Venture Program. Now, I'm just wondering, is there like a button you press that says, press here to win? Or like, how do you have a secret, so to say?
I don't know. The awards was, we looked at it from two sides. One, they help us with the funds in the company.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We literally bootstrapped ourselves from subsidies and winning those awards. And we looked at them as the lifeline for the company to exist. So that was one way of looking at it. The other was the awards that you mentioned. The first one, ASML Makers Award, was actually why I think Hable was born. So it always was a project. There was no intention initially to go towards entrepreneurship. It's also very new to me, entrepreneurship. The winning the award gave us a little boost in confidence to say, okay, we can start thinking in that direction. We can try to make it a company which actually cares and not start a project, do it for some time and then close it down. And then projects just fade away. It just fades away. We don't want to do that.
Yeah, it really reminds me of Claudia Bleker, who we interviewed in the first episode, that also stated that participating in these awards will just help your brand so much. Maybe not always money, but also to get brand recognition and that other people will help you out.
What would be the biggest lesson that you learned from, let's say, all the contests combined?
Well, the hidden one is it takes a lot of time. So it is quite time consuming when participating in competitions. But the biggest one I would say is see it as a competition, I would say. Yeah. I've looked at those competitions because I have been a competitive swimmer in India, and I've looked at these competitions as a competitor that I want to beat the other people who are participating with me, and not from a viewpoint that okay, let's participate and see where it goes, we win or not, but solely from the point of view, okay, I need to beat the other people.
And you need to win. Got to get that winner's mentality going.
Yeah.
So, be the best.
Okay. I think we have 4 minutes left before you have to go, Ayushman. Classic final question. What would be your advice to anyone studying industrial design engineering? So that could be to us or anyone.
I think so. What I was curious about was the same things that you are curious about, which is, okay, how are they born? And I think industrial designers sometimes take quite some credit for actually making the product or giving it life. But in the business environment, industrial designers are very less known as to where they fit into the process. And as a result of it, industrial designers have to fit into the world instead of selling to the businesses what they're good at. So my tip for people who are studying industrial design is to kind of look outside their study, outside the work that they're doing right now, and find a speciality that do other than just the human aspects or the design of products. That could mean that you need to find either a hard skill like programming, and you could be a game designer, and that's the combination that is quite powerful. For me, it's been electronics and design, and now I'm doing the business part of it, or running a business. So I'm using design processes in my business, in my marketing skills. Yeah. So I would say try to find another thing next to design that you could add to your skill sets.
Yeah,
okay. And combine
that's super important. Yeah.
Find your specialty.
Yeah, like for example, food and design. It's a wonderful combination. They're food designers. I find it so interesting to see people who know so much about food and then you use design, because that gives you a direction.
Yeah. Okay, so that's also an example of where you, so to say, apply design to a specific hard skill or a topic of some sort. And
it's a way of I think exploring, or because you need to work on a skill for at least 3 years to 5 years to become good at it. And if you still remain a general designer, I think somewhere down, you struggle to find a grip on what you're good at after all as a designer.
Yeah.
So good to find a niche, or for me it's been assistive technology. Since the beginning, since engineering, it's been finding ways to do the social impact side of things, I believe. So if I ever do another startup, it would be somewhere around sustainability, and that's again because I think it's a social topic, and the more and more awareness about sustainability is increasing. So as a designer, I can find myself around those topics quite easily.
I think with that answer we can round it off then. Or do you have something else to say?
I just wanted to say that I think it's a very almost impressive answer.
Yeah.
I could almost say that I'm jealous that you found something that is so good for the world that you're so excited about, because I think that's a very luxurious position. But yeah. So, let's just wrap it up there. It's 11 o'clock. You have to leave, Ayushman. Thank you so much for listening. Let us know what you learned. Let us know the lessons or the inspirational thoughts that you maybe got from this episode.
Send us a DM.
Yeah, send us a DM. We really, really like to hear from you. Any tips, any criticism, always welcome. And with that being said, we'll see you in about 2 weeks for a next episode.
Yeah, and Ayushman, thank you so much
for
being a guest today.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Right.
And then the tune comes in.